So I also mentioned I wanted to give a little bit of a review of the mill and let you know what was so appealing to us about it. I'll start with the things I don't like as much, and I'd say the biggest thing is the price. It's a few $1,000s for this configuration, so an F2 with 12 feet of cutting length. And then if you don't have a big cutting saw, then you can add up to a couple $1,000s to add it. And so you're right in there around the level of an entry-level bandsaw mill. So that's definitely a big consideration depending on your situation. For me, it's something I've been looking at this mill for a couple of years, and it wasn't until I had a job lined up. It was a milling job on an island, and I previously would have done it with an Alaskan style mill, but it was a lot of logs, and they were all mid-sized logs. And that's where I find the Alaskan mill really struggles, is getting into smaller logs, is that you spend so much time, because you have to build the rails over the log for each new log. For those small logs, it's just a lot of time spent setting up rails and not a lot of lumber produced. So wanted to do the job, but it just was feeling like it was going to be a real struggle to do setting up rails. And so that was sort of the big kicker for me, was that this mill just seemed perfectly suited. I could pack it out to that island. We put it on the back of our ATV. We've got a video out about that, but back the ATV, a little tin boat, and motor it out to the island, set it up, and we do get other jobs like that. So yeah, but I felt like for the cost, I wanted to sort of already have something on the books ready to go to help pay for that. Yeah, that's the big consideration for me. It's I had a system that was working, and so there's a lot of money to add just to improve my process when I was already making boards. What I like, the biggest thing that I like, is squaring up the logs. So once I've got the square cant, then the actual cutting process really not a whole lot faster than what I was doing, but the squaring of the logs is so much faster, because you're not building again. And if you're not familiar with the Alaskan style, I do have a video out about that as well. But again, basically your log is your structure that your saw is going to run on, and because logs are irregular, you have to start by building rails up over the log to give yourself a nice flat plane for your first couple of cuts. And so with a big log, you take that time, set it up, square it up, and then you produce 12, 15, 20 boards. That's great. If it's a little log and you take all that same amount of time and you produce 3, 4, 6 boards out of it, not so good. So that's the biggest thing for me, is I felt like it really, previously I was sort of passing by little logs. I would think, just buck them up into firewood. It's just not worth my time to set rails on them and square them up. And now, yeah, all even little things that are just going to make a single 4x4, it's worth it to load it on here. They're so quick to cut. In fact, I've found I'm almost starting to favor the smaller logs, because with the big logs, it's great that you square them up and then you can produce a whole bunch of boards. But handling those when it's just the two of us and we don't have a tractor, it can be tough handling those big logs. It can be fun, satisfying, but it's also a lot of work. And those little ones, those little logs that we can pick up and move them around quite easily. Maybe we even just load them on our shoulders and carry them. It's so quick to load them on here, cut them up. So I'll show an example of that. Actually, there's a few examples, so we'll take a little walk this way. And we've got this broken fir tree here. Just really wouldn't have been possible for me to mill something this size with the Alaskan style mill. By the time you mount your plates on the end of the log to support your rails, you have to take a pretty deep first slab. You can flip those slabs over and re-mill them to recover that wood. But for a log this size, basically, you're going to cut your 2 slabs and have almost no wood left. And just 100 feet away, We've got this spruce tree down here. Now we can cut that up. It's going to be light enough. Kylan and I can just carry it, throw it right on the mill and mill that up. And yeah, just really nice and quick. Wander over here just another 100 feet away or so. And we've got more down. They just came down this year. This one might be only a 4x4. But with the price of lumber, it's going to be so quick for me to cut that up. I could carry it out myself, throw it on the mill. The other one in behind, a little bit bigger, all still really manageable stuff. So that's something that for me, it's just another one, well, hard to see, but another little guy back there that can be another little guy here that can be turned into lumber. So it's really just, for me, it's opened up so much more timber that previously was inaccessible. And that's definitely the biggest advantage. So when I compare this to Alaskan style milling, that's really, for me, the biggest advantage is how quick it is to square up the log, because I've got these reference faces. I don't need to build the rails, just put the log on and I'm cutting right away. Is the first advantage. And the second advantage is because I can take a really light slab, I don't have to cut underneath any sort of plates that are attached to the log. Then it opens up really small wood that can be quick to handle, get it on here, cut it up, and produce some boards, you know, in very short order. Compared to bandsaw milling, the biggest advantage is portability. So if I was cutting exclusively in the yard here and bringing all my logs in, then you know, I think probably a bandsaw mill in that situation maybe would have edged this guy out. But for me, a lot of our personal milling is here, but even some of our own milling is, you know, random spots around our property where we have to access by boat or we walk in because we haven't cut trails all over the property. We've got a pond and a creek here that prevents us getting the ATV to the far side, and we haven't had any desire to build a bridge across. So some of our milling around here is also in accessible spots, but probably more importantly is when we're doing milling jobs. A lot of them are at boat access cottage properties, and so I mean, you could probably get a bandsaw mill in there, but by the time you you know, maybe wrestled it on or paid for a barge, then this guy could, you know, I can be in and out with this guy. So yeah, and then the biggest critiques I hear of chainsaw milling, whether it's this system, the Alaskan system, is the saw kerf is producing a lot more sawdust and thus more waste than a bandsaw mill. But for me, a lot of our logs, they just are not going to get milled otherwise, or a lot of the logs that we go do for other customers, it's just not feasible for, you know, 3 or 4 trees to try to get a bigger operation in. So I've always been really interested in making use of those trees that otherwise are just going to rot into the ground. So yeah, I don't consider, you know, if the tree was going to rot anyways, then to get in there and produce, you know, 10, 12 boards instead of maybe 11, 13, or 14 boards, you're still way ahead versus no boards at all. So to me, anything you get out of trees that otherwise weren't going to be cut is a great use of that tree. And the 1/4 inch kerf that I'm doing now on with this low profile chain, really over the course of a log, by the time you square up the log and you get your boards out of it, you're losing 1, maybe 2 boards out of a log. So that's significant. That'll add up over time, but it's not enough for me to think, well, this is a you know, a system that shouldn't be done or disregarded. And then the other one is the speed. A bandsaw mill, because it's taking such a small kerf, it needs less power, but it's often mounted with a bigger motor, so so it's just able to achieve faster cutting speeds. But again, with a properly sized saw and this low profile chain, and if you're keeping it well maintained, then your cutting speeds can be pretty good. They still aren't, I'm not going to say that they're as fast as a bandsaw mill, but for me, what I've realized is that so much of the time that I spend milling is actually in the log handling. Selecting the trees, getting them down, getting them limbed. If I'm bringing them here to the site, then getting them transported here to the site. If I'm out at a remote spot, then still just, you know, maneuvering those logs down to a central location where I can mill them more easily. Getting them up on the mill, like all of this stuff takes a huge amount of time, and so if I speed up my cutting a little bit, I really haven't changed my process very much. Now, if I was cutting all of my stuff in the yard here, or if I was getting truckloads of logs delivered and I had a tractor to load the mill, then yeah, definitely the cutting speed becomes more important because you've already cut down on your log handling and you can spend more of your day cutting boards. Not my situation, and so I don't think increasing my cutting speed a little bit is really going to change my output of boards significantly. So yeah, that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts in brief. I've been really happy with this thus far. Still under a year's use, so I don't like to you know, be really conclusive, but yeah, I loved it the first time I used it. Just so impressed with how quickly I could square logs, and yeah, I definitely realized right away I'm going to be picking up all sorts of logs that I otherwise would have cut into firewood. So, and now with the prices skyrocketing, that's even more so. It's becoming yeah, just that much more appealing to make our own lumber. So that's it. Maybe just to demonstrate how quickly we can just pick a tree out of the bush there, those small ones. I'll go get that small spruce, get it out here, load it on the mill, and we'll get it milled up. Right there, or what?
Yeah, that's probably good there. For floorboards anyways.
Predicting about a 0% chance I can carry this sucker myself.
Cuts it!
Okay, let's try. So keep you young, am I right?
Or expedite the aging process. Oh my gosh, look! It's one of my candle holders. I made this for Dave for his birthday one year.
I did not, at least not intentionally.
What the heck? As Dave struggles with the log, I'm mourning. Good thing it's cedar. Still good.
Just trying to demonstrate how easy the process is. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
We could just pick up logs, just toss
Okay,
them on.
focus. Don't hurt yourself.
Okay, sorry.
And if you can't ditch it off to your right because the chainsaw's there.
I can't?
No.
Am I centered yet?
No.
It's not so bad. like I said, easy. It's like almost no effort at all.
This is the only way I can tire him out.
Alright, so yeah, not that easy to carry the logs on your shoulder. I guess I was overestimating there. But it's small enough that it'd be quite easy to handle. Kylan and I could have dragged it out of that little hole, got it up on the trail, and then moved it the same way we moved the big logs with a Comatic or on a trailer. So yeah, still a lot easier to move these little logs. This thing, if I was doing bigger timbers, I could get a 5x5 out of it pretty readily, but we're looking for woodshed flooring right now, flooring and siding. So it's so small, I'm not going to square it up. I'm just going to live edge cut through the thing. Oh, and if this was an 8-footer, definitely would have been a lot more manageable as well. So my point still stands. Even though I'm through cutting, I still need to roll the log, because otherwise, with the log sitting just on the rounded surface, it's going to have a tendency to roll and my cuts won't all be true. But anyways, I got 4 nice boards and 2 pieces of slab to use as siding. Not a huge windfall of wood, obviously, but really did not take much time right from felling the tree, carrying the log out, loading her up, and milling it into some boards. Now, this guy does make it really quick to square logs, but in this case, because I'm looking for woodshed flooring, they don't need to be jointed, so that makes it that much faster to just through cut them. I leave my woodshed flooring generously spaced to get lots of airflow. So these 4 boards, by the time I space them out, I'm probably going to get almost the 5 foot of coverage. I always make my woodsheds 5 feet deep, so that's probably 1 woodshed floor right there and a couple pieces of siding up the back side of it. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and if you're a chainsaw miller as well, would love to hear from you, why you got into it, why you love it, and what system you're using. Okay, thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.